So hey, let me ask you something. When you solo using the pentatonic scale with your band or over a backing track, does it sound like you're having an actual conversation with the music? Or does it sound like you're just playing some notes that are kinda in the right key? If you're honest, it probably sounds more like the second one, right? Well, the reason your pentatonic playing sounds disconnected is you're not targeting the chord tones that actually matter. I'm about to show you how to turn the pentatonic scales that you already know into a precision tool for creating solos that lock in perfectly with whatever chords are going on underneath. I'm Charlie Long. Thanks for checking out the channel. Grab your guitar. Let's get into it. Some people think the pentatonic scale is too basic and that's why they don't sound good playing it. Well, one thing you got to realize, you're not stuck because you're playing the pentatonic scale. You're stuck because you have zero chord awareness. That's what makes beginners sound like beginners. You run the box, you ignore the chords, and boom, minor colors splashed over a major chord, or major flavors smeared over a minor chord. It screams beginner. Here's the fix, that one trick in plain terms. Target the triad tones of the current chord, the root, the third, and the fifth, inside your pentatonic scales. Now we're going to play over a track that has the chords E minor to G, A minor to C. So each time through the chord progression, we're going to get to practice the concept I'm going to show you twice. Becoming aware of chord tones, especially roots and thirds, allows you to flip the moods of your licks to fit the chords. If you just noodle through a bunch of scaly pentatonic patterns and you never really accentuate B or the major third over a G chord, it's not going to sound like G. Same thing if you ignore G or the minor third over E minor, you're never really going to hear that minor pull. Now, G major and E minor pentatonics, they share the same 5 notes, but the gravity of the sound changes when the chords change. Over G, our triad notes are G, B, and D, or the root, the third, and the fifth. Over E minor, we've got E, G, and B, or the root, the minor third, and the fifth. They come from the same note pool, but they have different centers of gravity. When you aim for that root, the third, or the fifth on strong beats like the 1 and the 3, well, your licks, they suddenly snap into harmony. Here's a preview of what you'll be sounding like after this lesson. I'll run through the chord changes and really accentuate the major and minor thirds of each chord. Have a listen. Hey, if you like what you're hearing, come join my Patreon page. I go much deeper into these same topics that I talk about on YouTube. Link is in the description below. Now, let's really get into that one trick. Whatever chord is up, aim for the root, the third, and the fifth, the triad notes. If you remember nothing else, remember this. The third defines the mood. The fifth adds strength, and the root resolves the phrase. Let's map this inside what you already know. Let's go up to E minor pentatonic pattern 1, G major pentatonic pattern 5, and mark the anchor notes. Over E minor, the homes are E, G, B, E, G, B, E, G, B. Over G, our homes are G, B, D, G, B, D, G, B. Over A minor, and now we're going to go to A minor pattern 1 down at the 5th position. The chord tones are A, C, and E. Over C major, our chord tones are C, E, and G. Now here's something really important. How do we target those notes in a way that makes us sound like our favorite guitarists on their records? Here are a couple of approaches that always work. Our first concept is bending into chord tones, and we want to try to do it on strong beats like the 1 and the 3. For instance, over E minor, I might play something like this. So I'm in E minor pentatonic pattern 2 up in the 15th position. And I'm going to bend the root E up to the minor third or G. And then play D and the fifth or B. Let me do that again. So in that short little lick, I nailed all the chord tones. I hit the minor third on the 1, and then I hit the 5th on the 3. This lick is the antithesis of noodling, and it sounds so powerful and dead on. Another important thing, don't rush. Hit the targets, let them sing. David Gilmour does this constantly. He bends up into a long sustaining chord tone and then resolves it to another chord tone later in the phrase. Let's apply this principle to the other chords and make up some more licks to practice. Let's drop down to G major pattern 5 or E minor pattern 1 if we want to think about it that way at the 12th position. And let's play G, A, and bend up to B, which is the major third. We're going to release the bend, pull off the A to G. And then we're going to bend D on the B string up to the 5th or E. Release it back down to D and pull off to B or the major third. Once again, we nailed all the chord tones. Now for A minor, we're going to play one of my favorite licks and a trick you want to use whenever you can. We're going to go to A minor pattern 1. I'm up here at the 17th fret. And we're going to play the root A, the 5th, which is E, and then we're going to bend up into the minor third C from the B note a half a step below. Now B isn't in the A minor pentatonic scale, but we're using it to approach the C. And what you're going to learn is half steps have an incredible energy and tension in them. So milk that tension and then release the bend and pull off to A. And then bend the G on the B string up to the A root to finish the lick. Now the last chord is C, and let's play a cool pedal steel bend where we bend the D on the G string up to E, and then we're going to play G and C on the E and B strings. Everybody from Slash to Billy Gibbons uses this bend. Then we're going to release the bend and play down the scale to the C at the 15th fret of the A string. And we're going to finish the lick by playing D and bending it up to E or the major third one more time. Killer. So let me play those licks over the backing track so you can hear them in context. Here we go. Another great way to really accentuate those chord tones playing pentatonic scales is to make up licks on just one string. I really got into this listening to one of my favorite guitar players, Andy Timmons. He does this all the time. He does it because when you're playing on one string, you can't play fast. You have to concentrate on the phrasing and the timing. And if you get the phrasing down, you start to play licks that sound a lot like Derek Trucks' incredible slide licks, without the slide. Over E minor, let's play on the B string. I'm going to slide from A to B. That's the 5th of E minor, and then do that slide again and pull off the A to G. Going to hammer on A again, pull off to G, and slide all the way down to E at the 5th fret. And then I'm going to finish by sliding up into the G or the minor third. So we got in all the chord tones, and for some really cool phrasing, try to pick the fewest notes possible. I'm going to play it again, and I'm only going to pick the first note, and I'm going to pick that E before sliding up into the last note. Over the G, let's play on the G string. We're going to play D, E, and D, and then slide up to the root G at the 12th fret. We're going to pause there, give it a little vibrato, and then hammer on and pull off the A at the 14th fret, and then slide into the B at fret 16 and D at fret 19. On that lick, I just picked the first note and then the B and D notes at the end. Over A minor, we could jump up to the high E and play A, C, D, E, D, and C, and then slide up into G, pull off to E, and bend that G up into the A root, and then over C, we're really going to move in for the kill by playing E with the index finger, hammering on to G and sliding into A, and then doing a step and a half bend up into C, releasing that bend and pulling off to G, then jumping to the D at the 22nd fret and bending it up into E, which is our major third. These licks have so much power and intention. There's not a lot of notes, but every note has a purpose. And all the notes are connected with great phrasing, the slides, the vibrato, the bends. That is what makes your playing sound polished and, for lack of a better word, professional. Hear those licks over the backing track, and let me try to play this with some real passion for you. Let's do it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're hearing. Now, I've already hit you with enough information to keep you practicing for the next few weeks if you really get into it and get all out of this lesson that you can. If you do really practice this stuff, you're going to create a treasure chest full of great guitar licks. But let me give you one more idea and one more way to practice. There are pentatonic shapes that we refer to as diagonal pentatonic shapes because they go up as they go across the fretboard. So it gets us out of those box positions. For E minor and G major pentatonic, we can start one of these patterns on the G note of the low E and play all the way up to the G at the 15th fret of the high E. Notice we went from the minor third or G to the minor third or G. Another place to start a pattern is at the D note at the 10th fret of the low E, that's the 5th of G, and we can very easily play up to B at fret 19 of the high E string, which is the major third of G. So by playing the first pattern over E minor, and playing the second pattern over G, we kind of naturally hit the chord tones and accentuate the sound of the chords. So over the minor chord, we started on the minor third, and over the major chord, we start on the 5th, so there's our rule to follow. So for A minor, we'd start on C on the low E, and play up to C on the high E at the 20th fret. And for C major, we could start at the G note, play up to D at the 22nd fret, and we could bend into E or the major third, and if we drop down to the G at the 3rd fret, we could play that E in a little easier way. And of course, this is kind of clinical. I'm playing through the whole patterns to show you what's possible. But have a listen to what these sound like over the backing track and how nicely they just sort of naturally accentuate those juicy notes. Check it out. Let me play over the backing track one more time, and this time I'm just going to use one of those diagonal shapes over each pair of major or minor chords. We're going to use the one that starts on the minor third of the minor chord, which happens to be the root of the major chord. What I'm going to do, and what you need to learn to do once you get the patterns down, is stop mid-pattern on chord tones. This gets us out of that noodly, scaly sound and really makes us sound like we know what we're doing. I'll put diagrams up that show the scale I'm using and the chord tones in it that matches the chords as they change. So have a listen. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember to target the root, the third, and the fifth inside the pentatonic scale, and your lines will really start to sing. And if you're nailing the chord tones, you know you're playing all the best notes, which allows you to slow down and really dig in with your phrasing. You'll start to sound way more professional and polished. And when you do decide to play something fast, it's going to sound that much more impressive. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Work hard, have fun with that guitar, and I'll see you next week.